We're going to go ahead and get started here with our interview. I have Caleb Knecht. Did I say that correct?
Knecht.
Knecht. All right. So Caleb Knecht here. So first, I'd like you to just go ahead and just introduce yourself.
Yep. So I've been in real estate since 2005 and got into real estate because my mom was an agent for a long time. And I graduated with a marketing degree from college and had no idea what to do with my life. And my mom said, well, while you're trying to figure everything out, why don't you get a real estate license and see if that might be a good fit? And I got my license, and I was terrible at real estate my first couple of years. I sold 2 houses my first year. I felt like I was working really, really hard. I really didn't know what I was doing, despite having a mom who was teaching me like transactional stuff, but she didn't really know how to teach me how to like lead generate and find business and stuff like that. And I was 24 years old. So I didn't really have any friends or family that were buying houses that would trust me to help them with it. So I kept going. I don't know why. I almost quit like 1,000 different times because I was like, I am working so hard. I'm making no money. I was waiting tables so I could actually, keep a roof over my head. But year 2 was a little better. I think I might have sold like 7 houses. I was still working really hard and feeling like this is crazy for what I'm doing and the amount of effort and time that I'm putting into it. And then year 3, it all kind of like came together for me. I started to figure out how to do lead follow-up, how to convert leads, how to find business. And I think I sold like about 25 homes that year. And then I was like, okay, I think I might actually be able to make a living at this at some point. So
it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that. I mean, one of our first questions that we always ask, especially when we start getting into the, how'd you get into real estate and things like that? We always say, what was the thing that actually made you successful and get over that initial hump, right? Because so many people get into real estate and they're out in that first year. And a lot of it is getting over that big hump. So do you think it was sort of just the systematizing of that lead follow-up, or what would you say is kind of that thing that transitioned you from that 7 to 25 homes a year?
yeah, I think I read the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book before I ever got my real estate license. And actually, right before that, I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. And so I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I was deeply affected by that and impacted by that because I came from a very lower middle class family. Like we were probably right on the borderline of being like poor and middle class. And I always knew, seeing my parents struggle financially, I was like, man, I just don't want that for myself when I get older. So I was like, I'm going to be successful. I don't know what I'm going to do to do that, but I don't want to have to be struggling to scrape together money to pay my bills and stuff like that. So I read Rich Dad Poor Dad and I was like, wow, real estate investing, this is it. Like, this is how I can create, wealth and financial freedom for myself and my family. And then I was like, well, this is cool, but I do need a little bit of money to at least get started in real estate investing probably. So right then was when my mom was telling me about real estate. I read the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, and I just caught the vision. I was like, yes, this is it. I would love the idea of being able to build a team that, would one day be an opportunity for me to walk away from the business and still have an asset that was producing income for me and my family. So I caught the vision of what that could be and knew that's what I wanted. So that's probably what kept me going through the really lean first couple of years. And it was lean. I did not like real estate the first 2 years. I was way out of my comfort zone, calling people. I remember making calls one day, following up on some open house leads, and somebody was rude to me and hung up on me. And I just remember feeling so defeated. I was like, well, I'm not going to make calls for the rest of the day. And I just like quit and like lay on my bed and felt sorry for myself for the rest of the afternoon. So
Yeah, trust me, I think we've all been there. We have more in common than you think. Your interest to become a real estate agent, almost to fund what the real estate investing side would be. That's almost identical to why I got my license in the first place, right? My same thing. And Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, right? I mean, everything that he's done and taught, I consume with voracity, basically. So you did kind of mention, success. So what would be an example of maybe a big success you've had recently? What's something you've done recently that you're kind of proud to hang your hat on a little bit?
Well, this is a weird thing, maybe an odd answer to the question, but I'm proud of, so in the last 12 and a half years, my business partner, Chris Lagarde, and I have built the Chris and Caleb team. We had our best year ever last year. We sold 174 homes.
Wow.
I don't even know how many $1 million of real estate that was, but it was our best year ever. And if you would have told me a year later that I would be stepping down and leaving that team and selling my interest in the team back to my business partner, I would have said you're absolutely insane, because that team was my baby for 12 and a half years, and I loved it and cherished it and cared for it and built it and nurtured it, all that stuff. But I did make that decision to step down from the team in order to pursue my passion of coaching real estate agents and business owners. And also just to run a really simple real estate business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to grow a huge team. I just want to simplify my life. I love coaching agents. I love selling real estate. And I don't want to, this is going to sound really weird, but I don't want real estate leads. I just want to work with people that are referrals. And I'm going to do some door knocking in some very specific areas where I want to be known as the listing agent in that area. And that's it. I'm not going to do a bunch of marketing. I'm not, so like, it's very opposite of everything I've done to get to this point. I'm just at the point where I want a simple life, and I want to be able to spend time with my wife and my son, investing in them and spending as much time as I can with them. And yeah.
Well,
So I'm proud of myself in doing that. My biggest accomplishment is having the courage to do that, because it took a lot of courage, because I was known by my team. That was part of my identity. Part of my identity was wrapped up in the Chris and Caleb team. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think team building is awesome. I love coaching clients on building teams. I'm passionate about leadership and that kind of stuff. It was just time, and it was the right season for me to simplify my life. And so I'm on this journey. So,
well, I think it's also, one of the words that stuck out that you said there was courage, right? And courage to make a decision that, when you take a look at the MREA, like you mentioned, it's always a conical sphere shooting up and out, right? It's how do you go from first to second level business, second to third, third to fourth, fourth, fifth, all the way up to that seventh level business of, like you said, being able to step away and things like that. But that's what so many people are prescribed into thinking, is that the only trajectory and the only journey that you have in real estate is to just have more and more and more and more, right? And so this counter thought, this to say, look, what success in my life at this stage of my career is not to go and make it bigger, but it's actually to scale back. It's scale back to and pick and choose the items in my business that I really enjoy. And as long as I can supplement my income with another endeavor like the coaching program, and we're 100% going to get into that a little bit, the coaching program, I think it's super fascinating. To do that, that is a challenging concept for maybe a newer or a younger agent to even wrap their head around, that the end all be all of success for them in real estate doesn't have to be a, Chris Suarez level team, right? Or this massive, Gaurav Gambhir level team. It doesn't have to be that, right, for you to be successful. So I think that's really big. So I guess at this point, now that you are paring down a little bit, let's push you forward 6 months or a year. You've maybe formalized or finalized the transition away from the team. You're kind of well on the way out of that transition period. You're now down to what would be like your bare bones, or what your streamline is. So talk to me about what are going to be the big rocks of your business. What would be those big pillars of your business? The coaching program obviously is going to be one of them. What else kind of rolls into that?
Yeah. So, it's going to be really simple. I have a very small database, and I'm just going to build deep relationships with them. And then I will also be reaching out to people. So when I look back at like my business, one of the things that I will do differently this time is treating everybody in my database the same way was a mistake. And I'm all about like equality and, all that stuff. But I don't think it's smart to treat everyone in your database the same way. So one of the things I do with clients is I say, all right, who are the top 10 people in your database, top 10 influential people that either are sending you more than one piece of business a year, or have the opportunity to send you multiple pieces of business every year if you had a deep enough relationship with them. So again, I'm not going to when I look at the amount of time that I've spent in my life doing lead generation and lead follow-up, it's like all these little one-offs. People want to sell one house. They want to buy one house. There's nothing wrong with that. That is the bread and butter of a real estate business. Where I'm at right now, though, is I would rather have 10 relationships that were really, really deep with people that are influential and can give me, hey, they might send me 3 or 4 listings a year from one of those sources. And it's a lot easier to manage 10 relationships. And for me, I feel like it's a lot more genuine and I can go a lot deeper and I can help them in their business and whatever's going on with them. I would much rather invest into 10 different people and help them, knowing that, hey, they're just going to want to help me with my real estate business too. And they know a lot of people and they're well respected in the community. And, so that's the vision.
Yeah, I mean, thematically, I'm picking up a motif here where, you kind of mentioned it about the coaching. We discussed that a little bit prior to this call was,
Right.
the difference between a 30 and a 45-minute appointment. Being able to go a little deeper with people is important, right? And I think that's the same way you're kind of treating that database aspect of the business too, is that I don't need 1,000 people in my database, right?
Right.
Way less than that, but those 10 or however many people that you choose to foster those relationships, that also requires a good amount of effort on your part. And I think it challenges a lot of agents to re-up their thinking on what is a deep relationship with someone, right? Is it a few handwritten cards a year? Or is it something that you're doing every 2 to 3 weeks for that person to really improve? And also, what are you doing to impact them and help them out and be influential for them as well to keep them inside of those circles? And I think that you could take that 1,000 different directions. But I think that's a challenge for people to think about. Here's a big one, right? You've obviously been with Keller Williams now for close to 15, 16, 17 years, right? Since 2005, right?
Yep.
So who has been there to support you from the beginning?
That's a great question. Cindy Dickerman, the OP of our office, has been an incredible support to me throughout my real estate career. So I have a lot of respect for her, and she's really, invested in me a lot. This is going to be a strange answer maybe, but Gary Keller. I don't have a personal relationship with Gary Keller, but I've looked up to him for years. As from a distance, somebody that I respect and looked up to and still look up to. And just some of the sayings, some of the things that he's taught me over the years have changed my life. Like I remember when I was very early on in the team building process and building the Chris and Caleb team. I remember on stage one time at Mega Camp, we had 2 people on our team at that point. So it was 4 of us. And one of the people who was on our team just was not working out. Like it was not a good fit. And we just didn't know what to do at that point. And Gary Keller sat up there on stage and said, stop wasting your time trying to motivate the unmotivated and go find the motivated. And it was like, it's just so simple. But I just recognized in that moment, I was like, yeah, I'm trying to motivate the unmotivated right now. And that's why I'm frustrated, because I'm trying to push a rock up a hill. Just go find a rock that wants to roll downhill. And then your life's going to be a lot easier. So there's just been a series, through the books that he's written, Millionaire Real Estate Agent, The One Thing, Shift. I mean, I've just been, from a business perspective, but also, Quantum Leap, that's impacted my life. And just, he's just a wise guy. He's a smart guy, and he's lived a lot more life than I have. And he's, achieved a lot of cool things in business. And I don't desire or aspire to have Gary Keller's life. But at the same time, he's made my life better just from, being in his sphere of influence and being impacted by him, by being in Keller Williams.
I mean, he's a voracious reader, right? And I've heard from so many people, there's tons of books everywhere in his office. And he has just this unique way of taking a nugget from a book that may or may not have to do with real estate, but then taking this massive thing that's going on in so many agents' lives and being able to deliver it in something so simple as a one-liner. And yeah, Cindy Dickerman, we had her daughter, Leanna Dickerman, come and speak at our Red Talks event in Hershey back in May, which was really great to hear her speak and talk about buyers. So let's keep going back. Let's keep going back to the beginning, right? So if you could go back, and again, this is for a young professionals audience at the end of the day, right? That covers a wide range. But if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh man. What advice would I give to my 18-year-old self? I
And
would
it could be your 18 or your 22-year-old selves, depending on kind of where you were, but that
yeah.
section of slice of life.
Well, I mean, I was a complete knucklehead at that age, so any advice would have been good. I probably wouldn't have listened to my own advice at that point anyway, so it probably would have
Yeah,
gone
same here.
one
Same
ear
here.
and out the other one. But I would probably say um, get to know, become self-aware. Up until very recently, I haven't been an incredibly self-aware person. And, getting to know yourself better is a really cool journey. Um, and along with that, for me, not only did I get to know myself better, I got to know God better. Because those two things go hand in hand. You really can't get to know yourself that much better without getting to know God better, and vice versa. Those two go hand in hand. So the Enneagram has been really helpful. That's a personality assessment that I took probably 4 years ago, maybe at this point. And I'm an Enneagram 7. And that, when I understood the natural way that I behave in some given situations in my life, I could then recognize where that was serving me really, really well, and where I could double down on that, and where it was really holding me back, specifically in like personal relationships with my wife and my son and things like that. So self-awareness is really big, especially as a leader. If you're not self-aware, you can do a lot of damage, and create a lot of
Can you say that out? Enneagram? What is
Enneagram.
that?
So it's ENNEAGRAM. ENNEAGRAM.
All right. I'm sure people are going to be Googling that pretty
There's
immediately.
a book called The Road Back to You, which is there's an assessment. There's many different assessments if you look online. I would recommend getting one that's paid. There are some free ones that I wasn't a big fan of when I took them, but it's maybe like $10 or something like that. I know Truity has one that's good, but the book will really explain it in a lot more depth. And it's helped me understand other people too, like understanding my wife, or understanding my business partner, or understanding team members, and knowing kind of like how they might tend to show up in a given situation. A lot of people say like, oh, I don't like those things because they put me in a box, and they define me and tell me who I am, and I can be whatever I want to be. And I think the exact opposite, which is, if I know how I'm going to naturally behave in a certain situation, I can be aware of that. I can be aware that I'm doing it in the moment. And if that's not what I want to do, I can then consciously change the way I might show up, or the way I might act or react in a given situation. So it's been life-changing for me.
Yeah, and it's not putting you in a box, but it is giving you a framed perspective from which you can choose to act in accordance with or different to, right? It's all that's doing is articulating a way of being, but it's not forcing you to react that way every single time in every single scenario. So I have two more kind of broad questions for you, and then I want us to jump into the Abundant Life Business Coaching project a little bit that you're starting. So kind of on this opportunity of sort of self-awareness, and I'm sure I was the same way at 18. There were some lessons that probably evaded me at 18, and with that, you get to a point where you start becoming more self-aware, and then you become more successful, and it's a whole journey and transition through there. But not everything's rosy, right? Not everything's seen through rosy colored glasses. There are some legitimate hiccups in that. So one of the big questions that we always like to ask is, what was a big failure that you had, or as we like to call it, a learning opportunity that you had? But what was something that you tried that just did not work? And maybe it was one of the more illuminating things for you. It could be in your personal life, could be in your business life, a combination of the two. But what was something that you saw that really didn't go quite the way you planned, but maybe had a silver lining on the other side?
Yeah, so I mean, going back on my whole real estate career and journey, I wouldn't change anything. Like, it all happened for a reason, and I learned a ton through the experience. A lot of high highs, a lot of low lows. But at Keller Williams, we talk a lot about God, family, then business, in that order. And that sounds really good. And I think, oh man, that's awesome. I love that. I love that I work for a company that those are their stated values. I think that's incredible. But I would tell you, if you ask me, hey, Caleb, what are your priorities? I'd be like, oh, God, family, business. But I wasn't really living that, right? And so I was putting my business in front of my relationship with my creator and my family. And I did that for many years. I did it because I had a scarcity mindset and because I had a need to be respected and liked by other people. And I saw real estate as a platform to do that. Once I started, growing the team and having some success, people started looking up to me within my market center and in the region and things like that. And it was important for me to be respected and admired by people. And so when I look at one of the mistakes that I made is I put my business in front of my family because a lot of times I was getting a lot of immediate, good, positive feedback in the business world. And I was like, I'm good at this and it's working well and it makes me feel good. But the ultimate thing is it's like, dude, if you build some great business, but at the end of the day, you regret not spending time with your wife and kid, how's that going to make you feel? And so I recognize, so we talked about success a little bit. You mentioned that word, but if you're not clear on what your definition of success is, man, you can go all kinds of places that you think are taking you that are good, that you end up recognizing, you're like, man, how did I ever get here? And this is not important to me. And so, I'm 41 years old now. And so I'm sort of at that midlife spot where I'm just recognizing hey, if I keep doing what I've been doing for my first, 41 years, am I going to be happy with the results when I'm 82? And I realized I needed to make some changes. And so that's why I'm running a much more simple business. That's why I'm going after my passion, which is coaching. So yeah, my biggest mistake was not living God family business and thinking I was living it, but not really.
Sure. And I think that's, you say it's in such a way, especially at this stage of your career, making kind of the big transition that you are. We always talk about there's classes on vision boards, right? And I think there's a lot to be gained from that. But what I almost wish that we could rebrand them is how do you define success, right? Because that so many people just think, again, we just think bigger, 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 bigger is always the way to go. That's where we need to be. And we almost feel like we shouldn't be aspiring to a more simplified or a different version of that. So I think having the conversation around different definitions of success are okay, and how we strive to get those is important, but also being reflective and self-aware that the business that you're running today and the lifestyle that you're running today, is that in accordance with what you're getting there? So kind of our last question that we really go to, and it comes into this, is, what's next for you as an agent leader or a team, right? And for you, it's obviously a coaching program, and sort of, what's your one thing that you're working on maybe this week or this month, to make that happen. So in our last, 5-6 minutes here, I really want to jump into, your coaching program. So let's really open that up.
Before we do that, Connor, let me just jump back to the last question. And you talked about hey, what's your definition of success? And I heard somewhere they said, it was a quote that said, success is when, trying to think of this quote. Success is when the people that know you best respect you the most. Success is when the people that know you best respect you the most. And when I read that quote, I was like, I feel like I'm the opposite of that. I feel like at home, I'm not as well respected as I am outside in work circles. And it's because I hadn't invested the time to be present with my wife and my son. And so that was like a moment where I was like, okay, I gotta make some changes here, right? And I read a book also called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And that book changed my life. I mean, it was a very, very interesting book. And there's also a Mother Teresa quote that has kind of rocked me to the core. There was this guy who was talking to Mother Teresa and just was saying, oh man, it's so amazing what you're doing and helping all these people in the slums. And it's just incredible that you have this huge heart to help people. And he said, I want to help change the world too. What should I do? And she said, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family. Wow. And what could be more simple than that? But dude, if I'm honest with myself, I want to change the world. I want to help people. I want to be significant. I want to impact people's lives. But it all starts at home, right? Start there. And when you're doing that really, really well, then go somewhere else. But until you're doing that well, just go home and love your family.
And the funny part about all of that is the world is subjective. We all think of the world as this global sphere that we live on that's 25,000 miles around. But really, our world can be our immediate nuclear family. I mean, that can be my world. I have another world at work. And sometimes changing the world doesn't have to be what can I do to prevent ecological disaster or improve, race relations. It can simply be, how do I improve the world of the people closest to me at home? And that just starts with, like you said, being present for them, listening, communicating with them effectively, and showing them love, right? So
well, I mean, as we're talking about this, I mean, just imagine this. You're talking about all these other problems that are going on in the world. If everybody's went home and loved their family really, really well, it would change the world.
It absolutely would. I'm a staunch and firm believer in that. So let's talk. So as people need help, right? Yeah. As people need help with that, they need someone to guide them along that. So what a perfect segue. So let's talk about abundant life business coaching.
I started Abundant Life Business Coaching, very kind of like, nonchalantly. I'll just be perfectly blunt with it. Like, I'm not like sitting there like crafting this amazing business plan of how I'm going to dominate the world with Abundant Life Business Coaching. I am growing a boutique coaching company called Abundant Life Business Coaching. It's focused really on, yes, it is business coaching, but it's helping people live a well-rounded, awesome, abundant life in all the different areas of their life. So, we use the 7 circles from the One Thing book, which talks about your job, your finances, your personal life, your key relationships, all those things. And we rank them and rate them, and we coach to that, right? And so what I don't want to have happen is what I've seen as a rampant problem in the real estate industry is that agents get eaten alive by their own success. They work super, super hard to build a successful business. They don't incorporate any leverage or get any help in their life. And next thing you know, they got into real estate because they desired freedom and good income. And now they're making great income, but they have no freedom because the business is running them. They're not running the business. And so, you can only do that for so long before you burn out. And I don't want to see that happen for people. I want to see people make a huge impact in their business, but more importantly, have an abundant life outside of that so that they are financially sound, their key relationships are doing well, their spiritual life is attended to, and their physical health is attended to, because those things can fall by the wayside in pursuit of, success. And the world and the country and all that we live in tells us what success is. So if we're not very careful and we design, have a clear definition of what success is for us, then we'll end up living someone else's definition of success. And you'll end up climbing that ladder of success. And, sometimes you end up climbing that ladder, getting to the top and realizing you're on the wrong wall. So I want to make sure people are on the right wall as they're climbing that ladder of success.
I love that metaphor. And that's exactly what I was thinking of when you were saying kind of climbing that ladder of success. And I have the 2 different walls, right? You're climbing as fast as you can, but it's literally getting you to the wrong destination faster. Yep. One of the things I always think about, especially with coaching, I understand what the client would get out of it. They'd get coaching, they'd get transformational success. They would get, moving from 10 million to 20 million or 20 to 50 million or a better lifestyle balance, whatever. Like that point is clear. What do you get out of coaching as the coach? Because we all do it for 2 reasons. One is a monetary reason, of course, to fund the life that we want, but there's obviously some form of an intrinsic benefit that you also get from coaching. So elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah. I love that question. I mean, it's, I would say, so my mission in life is to inspire people to maximize their God-given potential and find abundant life. And so the word inspire means to breathe life, right? Mm-hmm. And so if I can have an impact on someone's life and change the trajectory in the course of their life to make it better, then I'm using the gifts that God's given me to have an impact on people. And to me, there's nothing more fulfilling than living out your calling and doing something that you enjoy doing and then that you're good at, right? So it is, coaching, I think, is a skill set, but it's also something that just I'm naturally gifted at. I'm looking at growing and honing that gift and getting better and sharpening my skills. I know I still have a ways to go. I love it though. It's fun for me.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to be wrapping up here in just a minute or two with our formal kind of interview here. But how can the people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about you, your story? They want to learn more about the the abundant life business coaching. What would be the way they can get in contact with you?
Well, I'm a 41-year-old dinosaur, so I'm not active on social media. Just text me. My number is 484-995-1591. Text is the best way to get in touch with me. And
Awesome.
yeah, if anybody wants to have a conversation and explore coaching and what that would look like, what I'm looking for in a ideal client is somebody that has a team or is looking to grow a team. And when I say team, it doesn't need to be some massive team. It could just be getting some leverage, even if it's a VA and a virtual transaction coordinator or whatever. But somebody that's really looking to grow, not just their business, but in all the different areas of their life. Somebody that's coachable, probably, doing at least like 6 million in production, because I want to make sure that that's going to be a good fit. They're going to be able to be, I don't want to be in a situation where, the cost of me coaching them is exorbitant and they can't afford it. But, one of the things that I love is I remember when I was first hiring a coach for the first time and they told me that it was $1,000 a month. I was like, $1,000 a month? That is insane. That is so much money. Granted, this was probably like 12 years ago or something.
Sure, yeah.
But I was just shocked. I was like, that is so much money. I couldn't imagine paying a coach that much. I heard something the other day that really kind of rocked my world, and because I was thinking at it from a time perspective. This coach is going to spend X amount of time with me, and I'm going to pay them $1,000 a month for that. But what I heard that changed my mind on that and just kind of changed my perspective really was a coach is paid for the value they provide, not the hours that they work, right? So it doesn't you don't even know what kind of conversation you might have with your coach that's going to change the course of your life or change the trajectory of your life. I know I've had a couple coaches that have changed my life, and I was paying them $1,000 a month. It was the best investment I ever could have made, right? Now, I've had some coaches that weren't a great fit for me, and I wasn't a great fit for them, and it was an expense. It wasn't an investment, it was an expense. So, I might be an investment for some person, and for another person, I might be an expense. So it just depends on, where does that person want to go? What's the personality fit? And, if somebody wants to explore a coaching relationship with me, I always do 2 coaching conversations for free, where I really get to know the person, understand what they're looking to get out of coaching, and see, I'm going to interview them as a client. They're going to interview me as a coach. It's a 2-way interview. And, we can decide whether it makes sense to work together or not.
Yeah. So what you're saying is basically you've already given your phone number away. So somebody could text you or give you a buzz sometime today or sometime tomorrow, and just get started with those 2 just informational interviews, just to kind of get to know each other a little bit and see if it's even a match. I mean, that sounds like a pretty low holds bar, no obligation way of figuring out if because I'm with you. Coaching has been a big jump for me. I'm 100% with you that it's not necessarily about the monetary investment. It's about the value that you extract out of that. And that value chart is going to be different from every person to every coach and every relationship they're in. And so figuring out who that good counterpart, your dyad in the force, to use my Star Wars nerdy references to throw them in there, finding out who that is important. And then being able to be constructive and being intentional about the type of value that you want to exchange between each other is also important to set that groundwork for a good coaching relationship. Because like you said, if you're trying to help people climb the right ladder of success, well, first probably is a good idea to get to know them and see well, what is your definition and where can we put your ladder? So anyway, Caleb Knecht, I appreciate you hopping on for this. Everybody, please reach out to him if you have any interest. Reach out to us if you also want us to forward your information along. We're happy to do that. So thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in this week. All right. Have a great day.
Thanks, Connor.